you'll discover that in this chapter, Solomon is going to draw two conclusions. One is that death is unavoidable. That'll be in the first 10 verses. And then life itself is unpredictable in the last 9 verses. Whenever I think of death, I'm reminded of Woody Allen's famous crack. He says, I'm not afraid of death, I just don't want to be there when it happens. But each of us, including Woody Allen, will be there when it happens. Because there's no escaping of death. And when your time has come. And death is not an accident, it's an appointment. That's an appointment. That's what Hebrews 9:27. It is appointed unto men and women but once to die, and after this the judgment. That expression, of course, is intended and focused on a rebuttal to reincarnation. It's interesting how all the Eastern religions and so forth, they all have various versions of reincarnation. That is a pagan idea. It is expressly refuted in the Scripture, especially by Hebrews 9:27. Death is a destiny that nobody but God can cancel or change. Whenever I come across the subject of reincarnation, I find it irresistible to include a poem that was called to my attention some years ago, if you'll bear with me. What is reincarnation? A cowboy asked his friend. It starts, his old pal told him, when your life comes to an end. They comb your hair, they wash your neck, they clean your fingernails, and they put you in a padded box away from life's travails. Now the box in you goes into the hole that's been dug in the ground. Reincarnation starts in when you're planted neath that mound. Them clods don't melt down just like the box and you who is inside. And that is when you begin your transformation ride. And in a while the grass will grow upon your rendered mound, till someday upon that spot a lonely flower is found. And then a horse may wander by and graze upon that flower that once was you and now has become your vegetated bower. Now the flower the horse done eat, along with his other feed, makes bone and muscle and fat and essential to the steed. But there's a part that he can't use, so it just passes through. And there it lies upon the ground, this thing that once was you. And if perchance I should pass by and see this on the ground, I'll stop a while and ponder at this object that I found. And I'll think about reincarnation and life and death and such. But I'll come away concluding, why, you ain't changed all that much. Wallace McRae. Well, I apologize if that's a strange thing to insert. I couldn't resist including it, but whenever people start talking about reincarnation, I'm always remembered by what's called the cowboy poem. But we're going to be talking about this issue of death, obviously in more serious terms. And the only way to be prepared to live is to be prepared to die. Death is a fact of life, and Solomon is going to examine many of the facets of life so that he might really understand God's pattern for satisfied living in the reality of death. Robert E. Lee's famous words were, "Let the tent be struck." See, and unless Jesus Christ returns and takes us to heaven in the rapture, we all, each one of us, one day will strike our tent, as it might be expressed in 2 Corinthians 5 and so on. And we'll leave the battlefield for a better land, but we've got to be ready. And anyone who treats death lightly may fear death the most. And if we take life seriously, and we should, then we can't take death flippantly. So let's take a look at what the king, who has been dubbed the wisest man that's ever lived, says about these things from his point of view.